Hey everybody, here is another tutorial via the Boise climbing team on a drill called the functional feet drill. So the goal of this drill is to dial in a few foot techniques, for instance, toeing down, using the inside edge of your shoe, using the outside edge of your shoe, heel hooking, toe hooking, and I think my favorite is pulling with your feet using specific footholds. So we're going to pick a climb. It's good, again, when we do these drills to start with easier climbs, and then we can work our way into the harder climbs as we get better. You're going to pick a climb that you're very familiar with, and then use open feet, any feet you want on the board. And the goal is to, for every single hand move, utilize a single foot technique. So if you're choosing pulling with your feet, we're going to, on every single hand move, pick a foothold that requires us to pull with our feet. Or if we're doing heel hooking, we're going to use footholds that we have to heel hook in order to do the movement. And it's really, the goal is to really explore and get better at these very, very specific foot techniques. So I'm going to demonstrate just like what a set would look like using, focusing on the pulling with your foot or pulling with your feet technique. Again, I'm going to choose an easy climb. You really want to go about this like you're projecting, okay? So the goal isn't to get from the bottom of the climb to the top of the climb at all costs. The goal is to get better at pulling with your feet. So if there's a move you're not quite comfortable with, or you feel like you can do better, drop, try that move again, get it dialed, and then once you've got that move dialed, all the moves in the route dialed, then we can start doing repetitions from the bottom to the top, working on this foot technique. So here is my first attempt at the drill. One thing I want you to really notice is that I'm in project mode. So again, I'm not trying to send the climb. My goal is to really focus on pulling with my feet, trying to pick good footholds that will allow me to do that, and then trying to engage that inside edge to pull my hips over the foothold as best as I can. So quickly I'll explain what I mean by pulling with your feet. Pulling with your feet usually happens when we have very directional holds where the edge of the hold that we're trying to utilize is usually facing away from us. And it's similar to just like when we have a side pull on a handhold. We use that side pull to kind of sometimes pull our body over the top of our foot. A lot of times when we use our feet, we're pressing or we're pushing down on holds, but this technique we're going to practice pulling with our feet. Just like if we have a side pull, we're going to be pulling our body to the side with it. Same thing, we're fishing that foothold on that directional hold facing away from us, and we're using that foothold to, and our foot on that foothold to pull our body instead of pushing our body. So pulling with your feet. Here we go. Here's my first repetition after spending some time in projecting mode, sussing out the footholds I wanted to use in order to do the pulling with your feet drill. You can do any number of repetitions. 2 to 4 is usually pretty good before either changing foot technique focus or switching the climb. It's also important and helpful to exaggerate the movement as much as possible, whatever technique you're focusing on. I really try to exaggerate as much as I can. When you're doing drills, I really encourage you to exaggerate the movement. You're going to understand it better, you're going to learn it better. Obviously, how you move in an exaggerated fashion while doing a drill isn't necessarily the most efficient way to do the boulder if you're trying to send. But remember, the goal when we do these drills is not to send. The goal is to get better at rock climbing. The goal is to get better at specific techniques, hard skills, soft skills that we're trying to work on. So make sure you keep the goal, and it really helps to exaggerate the movement you're trying to learn. This foot here is a great example of a foot we can utilize to practice that pulling technique. So if you imagine you were outdoors and this side of the foothold, right, of the tick mark that I just created, is flat or slopey, that you can't get enough purchase, you can't get a lot of purchase out of it. So therefore you couldn't really push or press on this side. Instead, you have to use your foot kind of like a talon and hook it on the other side, and then use that surface to pull your body weight over that left hip. Lastly, you can do this with any foot technique. I chose pulling with your feet, but you can do it with inside edge, outside edge, toe hook, heel hook. Use the functional foot technique drill to get better at specific foot techniques that you need to improve. Now I'm going to use the exact same hand holds I used in the previous example where I was focusing on pulling with my feet, and now I'm going to choose new footholds that focus on a different foot technique. In the first example, I'm focusing on heel hooking. In this example, I'm focusing on toe hooks. In this example, I'm focusing on the inside edge of my foot or my shoe. In this example, I'm focusing on using the outside edge of my foot. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something about how to use climbing drills to get better at rock climbing, specifically the functional foot drill we highlighted here. Feel free to leave comments below if you have further questions, or you can reach out to me, Coach Brandon Frank, or the Boise climbing team in a numerous of ways. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. The Boise climbing team has a website. Hope to hear from you.